Hey everyone, this is Mike and welcome to my walkthrough of E9 Savage. Now very quickly before we get into the video, I do want to apologize for the quality of the footage. I had to take it directly from my stream because I forgot to record, as we ended up clearing it way earlier than we thought we would, so we weren't expecting it to clear on this pull. And secondly, all of the strats that you're going to be seeing in this video are proc strats, were just designed for a way for me and my group to get through the fight and not care too much about our DPS uptime or anything like that. So there are a couple of things in here that you're gonna see that I'm personally not a big fan of, but they ended up getting us through the fight. And that is the purpose of this video, getting you through the fight as well and explaining the mechanics that are going to be happening so that if you come up with something better, you at least know how the mechanics work so that you can work around that as well. So with that out of the way, let's get right into it. Cloud of Darkness is a lot easier than we were expecting it to be, because of the simple reason that once you hit the halfway point, she's actually going to be repeating a lot of her mechanics. So by the time that you reach 50% and you start looping into the fight, you basically have seen all of the mechanics already. There are going to be some slight alterations here or there, but nothing too groundbreaking that you need to learn going into the second half of the fight. So first mechanic that she's gonna do is the ground raising particle beam. This is just her normal raid wide attack. Doesn't hit crazy hard, but seeing how it happens so early into the fight, you can already pre-shield before you pull the boss and make it so that you don't take that much damage. The Art of Darkness is a somewhat random attack because she can do a couple of different abilities when she is casting this ability. Main thing you need to pay attention to is to what the boss herself is doing, because there are a couple of different tells that she has depending on the mechanic that is going to happen. In the first phase there are one of two options, which you will see both of them by the way. The first one being is when she just glows herself, like her chest will glow a little bit more as well. It will basically mean that everybody needs to spread around the boss, because everybody is going to get a laser beam on top of them, so just spread around the marker before you pull the boss and then you can just move out like that. Straight after this, she's gonna do the second version that she didn't do the first time around, which is where both of her orbs are going to be glowing, and for this every single DPS, I believe it is, will be targeted with a share stack marker, so you need to just stack it up with a healer or a tank, again spread around a marker at the beginning of the fight to handle this accordingly. One important thing to note is that both of these mechanics are going to be giving you a magic vulnerability up that lasts for like 1 second. So if you're overlapping AoEs with each other when she does the laser beams, if you're overlapping groups when she does this mechanic, you're highly likely to die. The only way you can survive is if you're a tank with hyper mitigation, but I do not recommend you do that. However, if someone is dead, then for example with the laser beams, someone will get 2 laser beams. If you get lucky, it goes on a tank, and they might survive, which you'll see happen later into the fight as well, but it's not something that you should count on to get through it. Then Devouring Dark, this is our tank buster. This one can be handled one of 2 ways, by either using a tank invulnerability or by doing a tank swap. The first little bit of damage is going to just apply a magic vulnerability on you. It does look like it's an AoE, I'm not 100% sure if it is, I would assume it is, so just don't stack together when this first part goes out. And then the second hit, this laser beam, that is basically going to be your tank buster. This is also a cleave, so make sure that there's no party members in front or behind you, that they don't get clipped by this, because they're most likely going to die. So 2 ways of handling it: just invuln it, or on the other hand, tank swap it as well. For the first hit, the one that applies the magic vulnerability, you don't need to use a cooldown. For the laser beam, the second hit, that's where you do need to use a cooldown. So if you decide to tank swap it, the tank that is evoking the boss needs to be using their cooldown. Moving over to our first phase change, Obscure Woods. This is going to be changing the arena into something different. And something that's very important to note is that this also does raid-wide damage, so make sure that everybody is fully healed when this ability goes off. First thing that she'll do in the second phase is Flood of Obscurity. This is going to be a pushback. You can use your knockback invulnerability for this if you want to do so. But because we are planning on placing our plants on the outside of the arena, we don't actually use our knockback invuns. If you're, for example, a ranged like a caster or a healer, I do advise you do this because you can pre-position at the edge of the arena already and don't lose any casts. After the knockback, make sure that you stay at the edge for a tiny bit longer so that all of your plants get dropped on the outside of the arena. We basically drop them in the same positions as we used our spread positions around the boss for the laser beams. And I'm going to be doing this mechanic in two parts because there's going to be two things happening at the same time. First of all, what you want to do is you want to stack up on the boss's hitbox. This will make it so that you can stay close to your plant because you're going to be tethered to the closest plant to you, and you're also going to be tethered to a random party member. We didn't find out if it was fixed or anything like that. I do believe it is tanks, healers tethering to a DPS, but still just run away from the person that you are tethered to. This basically works as any other tether in the game. If you're close to each other, then it's very easy to break the tether. If you're far from each other, you need to run further away as well to break the tether. And seeing how you're tethered to both the plant as well as another player, we decided to stack up like this, so for the most part we could just run through the boss and then break our tethers that way without losing all too much uptime. So that is basically the first part of the mechanic. You stay close to your plant, you're on the boss's hitbox, and then you just run through to the other side to break the tether with your plant, but also to break the tether with the party member that you are attached to. Now I'm going to rewind real quick because there is a second mechanic going on over here, which are these purple tethers. These will either tether north and south or east and west, and they will create a giant explosion. As you can see, there's like a tree in the back over here, and that tree is basically going to explode. So in this case, she's tethering north and south, meaning that east and west, or the B and the D markers here, are gonna be our safe spots. So after we break our tethers, so we stack up again, the tethers go out, everybody breaks their tethers, that after this we go to the B and the C, the B and the D markers, so that we are safe from this big explosion. You can keep melee uptime if you're kind of like max melee over here, so that is something to keep in mind as well. And then we go into another set of random mechanics. So this is going to be kind of a combo attack. There are two different variations of this combo attack, which both of them will include a tank buster. So you can have like your normal cooldown rotation running, that even though it doesn't really matter what combo attack she's going to be doing. First thing that she'll do is she'll tether to one of the plants. Which one she's going to tether to is random. Don't look at the direction that she's facing. Look at the direction where her yellow strings are going to be tethered towards. And there are two different combos. So the first one is Anti-Air Phaser Unlimited. This one is the worst one out of the two, especially when it comes down to tank uptime, because we're going to be sitting over here. So first thing that will happen is she's going to be doing a point blank AoE around her. This is a pretty big AoE, so make sure that you are away from that. So that resolves first. Then after this, both of the tanks are going to be getting a gigantic AoE on top of their heads. So it's very important that both of your tanks stay the hell away from the rest of your party. Whilst they get their AoE, the healers will also get a mini share marker. So you also need to make sure that one healer is paired up with 2 DPS on the left side and one healer is paired up with DPS on the right side, as that will go out right here. As you can see, the tanks got their tank busters and the healers got their stack markers. And then we move to the side of the boss because she's gonna do a very big cleave through the arena. So I'll just take it from the top again. This one is definitely the worst one when it comes down to uptime, especially for your tanks, but there's probably a way to handle this with a little bit more uptime, but this is basically what we did. So she'll jump to the plant. This is anti-air again, remember that. She'll jump to where she's tethering to, AoE around her, AoE stack markers on the healers together with the DPS that they're stacked with. Tanks get their big AoEs, tank busters, so make sure you have a cooldown for that, and then a big cleave through the middle of the arena. This one can also be different, because of course there are two different patterns that she will do, and when we see this phase for the first time, that is where she will alternate between the two of them. So if she does one here, she'll do the other in the second half of this phase. Again, another ground raising particle beam, so just make sure that everybody's stopped off for the raid wide AoE damage. And then we go into another Art of Darkness. And this one is going to be combining two different things. So as you can see over here, I'm going to rewind real quick. She's going to be showing one of her orbs this time around, so not two of them, only one. As you can see, it is the one on the left, well, left of my perspective, meaning that she'll cleave the left side of the arena, again from my perspective. And then she'll follow this up with either the group stacks or with the spread around the boss. In this case, she was glowing, meaning that this is going to be a spread around the boss. So you wait for the cleave to go off on the left side, and then once the cleave goes off, everybody spreads around the boss. to try and not clip anybody else. This could also be the other way around, where she cleaves one half of the arena, could be the right side as well, and then it could be group stacks afterwards, like where the DPS are stacked together with a tank or a healer. And then we go into the second combo mechanic. This one is called Wide Angle Phased Unlimited. Basically, we just remembered it as anti-air is like empty, tanks need to go away. Wide angle means that she'll start with the wide attack first. So again, look at where she's tethered, not where she is facing. And here the mechanics are basically going to be the other way around. So she starts with the big cleave through the arena. Then both of our tanks are going to get a tank buster, both of the healers are going to get a share marker again, but this time around it's going to be like a line AoE, as you'll see over here. So just make sure that your tanks are away from the party, also have a cooldown up, and that your healers and your DPS are stacked left and right again to basically share their shared damage marker. And then also move away at the end, because she'll do another donut towards the end as well. So I'll just rewind real quick again. She tethers to the side. You run to the side of the boss to dodge the cleave. Tanks move in through the middle for their tank buster. Everybody moves out for the AoE. And that is going to be resolving that mechanic. We end up pulling her back to the middle just to make it easier for the next phase transition, where she'll do another tank buster. Again, you can either tank swap this one or you can just invuln. We decide to invuln to keep things easy for us. And then we go into the third phase. Again, the transition to the third phase will do rate-wide damage. It's called Empty Plane. So make sure that everybody is topped off for this one, as it does hit quite hard. Then Flood of Emptiness is going to do a couple of things for us. So first of all, it is going to be breaking a lot of platforms on the arena. As you can see, the arena just got cut in half, basically. Outside of that, it will also give you two debuffs. So Cloying Condensation is going to make it so that when you stand on a tile, eventually it is going to break. If two players are standing on the same tile, it'll break immediately. So always try to give people space. You'll see that we are not going to do this, so there are going to be a lot of tiles that are going to be dropping down. If you stay on your tile for way too long, it will also break. So you need to alternate between tiles to reset your tile, as we liked to call it. The other debuff that we have, Curse of Darkness, is gonna make us do kind of like a laser beam shooting in the direction that we are facing, so we'll have to face outwards for that one. The next ability that she does, Hypercharged Condensation, is gonna make these clouds spawn on the outer edges of the tiles as well. Very important to kill these before they reach the boss, because when they reach the boss she will get a damage up marker, so you don't want to give the boss extra damage, of course. And to kill these, you need to stand in front of them. It works the same as World of Darkness, where you stand in front of the cloud and that will slow them down so that you have time to kill them before they reach the boss. So as you can see, players go out to their cloud to slow them as well as to try and kill them. Then we switch around our platforms once as well for our melee players, so that our outer tile can reset. And then over here our debuff is also going to run out, so we all look towards the outside. Everybody gets their laser beam. Again, point these outwards so that you don't clip other players. After these laser beams go out, the ranged players should come close to the boss as well, because she's gonna do the full perimeter particle beam, which is basically a donut AoE. So just stay in melee range for this one, so that you don't get hit by that. After this one goes out, again, ranged players back to the other tile, so that the melees can reset their tiles. We had, for example, our melee be on this tile because our scholar couldn't kill the cloud in time. This is mainly something for prog. Once we have better gear, I don't think this will be necessary. And here you can see that our melee moved a little bit too much to the side, which means that our platform is gonna break, unfortunately enough. Then she's gonna do another Art of Darkness. This one is gonna be either left side cleave or right side cleave. On this one it is going to be left side, meaning that we have to try and make a stack on this right side of the arena. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 platforms over here. So you basically need to make space for the other players from the left side to move over to the right side. We haven't found the best way to do this for like DPS uptime, because with our melee it would be like on this tile back here. But yeah, it's prog, just basically try to get through it for now. I'm sure other people will find out a better way to do this. Following this up, she's going to do another Art of Darkness. This one can either be the laser beams or the stack markers. This one is going to be laser beams because she's glowing and her orbs are not. So everybody just spreads into their positions. I am unfortunately enough going to die here because I get laser beamed twice because our ninja was dead. So that is why I died over here. And then we are going to go towards the third phase. One very important thing to note still about this darkness phase is to be careful with where you take your resurrection, because if you rest on the same tile that your healer rests you, you're both just gonna die again because you're 2 players on one tile and you can't have 2 players on one tile, so do pay attention to that as well, which is why I decide to wait a little bit longer before I take my res over here. And then we basically go through these same 3 phases again. The only thing that's new in the first phase is that she is now going to summon some clones. As you can see here on the edge of the arena, she has some clones, and then she's going to do Art of Darkness again. As you can see, this is going to be a cleave on her right side, meaning that her clones are also going to be cleaving the right side. So this side of the arena is not safe because the boss itself is cleaving that. Then this side of the arena is not safe because her clone is cleaving there, and then her second clone is cleaving this side of the arena, meaning that between 1 and D for our markers is going to be the safe spot. So we move over here. The safe spot is relatively tiny, so you do need to pay attention to that one. Can be pretty tight. Following this up, we're gonna have another tank buster, so you can just invuln this again because I'm playing warrior, my invuln is back. Not 100% sure if Gunbreaker would be back as well. I think Dark Knight would be back too. But you could always just do a normal tank swap here if you wanted to. Because this is one of the first times that we saw it. We weren't quite sure what we wanted to do. But I just invuln this one anyways. And that ends up working out. And then we have our third Art of Darkness. I was a little bit too slow on the pause right here. This one is going to be combining 3 of the darkness mechanics. So first of all, she's gonna make a cleave on one side of the arena. Then second of all, it's either going to be laser beams or group shares. In this case, it is group shares. And then she's gonna cleave another side of the arena. So far from what we've seen, it's always left or right, or like left into right or right into left when she does this. I would not be surprised if she can cleave left side twice as well. So cleave goes out, stacks go out, move over, second cleave goes out as well. And that is gonna do it for this phase. Afterwards we're going to go back into the forest phase. So Obscure Woods, make sure that people are healed up for this, because again this is raid-wide damage. Here is where we're gonna do things a little bit different with our knockback. So Flood of Obscurity, going to knock you back to the edge of the arena. But this time around we're going to be placing our plants a little bit different. I'm personally not a fan of how we place these plants. It just helped us get through the mechanic. So if you find a better way to do it, by all means do that, because this is a really bad way to do it. Especially with some of the other mechanics that are going to be coming in this phase. But this just worked for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to form a conga line. Again, the players that would normally be on 1 and 2, or like basically on A and B, I guess, for our pair markers, for our stacks, are going to go north and form a line, and then the players south are forming a line as well. Then we place our plants over there, we come a little bit closer to the middle. Then we wait here for our branches or our tethers to show up again, but this time around it is going to be paired up with towers, which means that you need to go stand inside all of those towers. So we wait for our tethers, we move out, we try to break our tethers, and then we take our towers on the other side of the arena. We basically have 2 ranged players as well as 2 tanks north. We have our 2 healers as well as our 2 melees south, meaning that we can switch positions. So our tanks take the south close tethers, our melees take the north close tethers, and then our healers are in the north towers as well, and our ranged are in the south towers, and this will resolve that mechanic. This was the main reason why we did it, because when we had our plants positioned like we did in the previous phase, it would be a little bit hectic of who's gonna take what tower, whereas here we literally just run to the other side of the arena and we've done the mechanic like that. Then we get another random combo mechanic. I think we only saw this twice during our prog, because we only saw this thing, like literally this phase twice. And I'm not quite sure if it was the same one twice. I would imagine that this could also be the wide-angled laser instead, but we got the anti-air phaser here, meaning that tanks stay out, pop a cooldown, DPS and healers stack up for their share marker, away from the boss for the first AoE, tanks and healer marks go out, next to the boss for the big cleave, and then we just pulled the boss back to the middle. Another ground raising particle beam, which is again raid-wide AoE damage. And then we go back into the rejuvenating balm. So this again is going to tether towards two sides. These are going to be exploding, but this time around it is going to be paired up with an Art of Darkness. So as you can see, she's going to be cleaving one half of the arena, leaving a tiny slice as your safe spot. So here you're going to be dodging both these two AoEs, as well as the cleave from the boss herself. And it is also a second Art of Darkness, so you actually need to see what the second thing that she does is as well. So I'm going to rewind real quick. So first she showed where she was going to cleave, and then she's showing that this is going to be laser beams. So again, laser beams, or if it's double orbs, it could be your stacks again as well. So seeing how it's laser beams after this resolves, people move to their spread positions. We had some confusion going on over here, which is why a few people died. But heal LB to the rescue. We have another tank buster over here. This one we're just gonna tank swap. I used a cooldown here, which was totally unnecessary, because our other tank, my paladin, is gonna be taking the actual tank busters. As you can see, he evokes off of me, I just get a magic vuln up, I barely take any damage, and he takes the actual tank buster to the face. The main reason why I don't like these plants being on the side is because when the boss jumps to the edge, if she'd want to jump to an edge that has plants on it, you don't really get any melee DPS uptime, which is why I don't really like it, but for proc we did it. Empty plane again, phase change with raid-wide AoE damage. This will make us go back into the darkness phase. And this one is very similar to the previous one as well. So again, everybody spreads around to their positions. Half of the arena disappears. We have our laser beam debuff again as well. Make sure that you reset your tiles. The clouds will be spawning. Laser beams go out, so look outwards for this one. Ranged move in, because we now have that donut going off. Ranged move out, so that our melees can reset their tiles. Then we're gonna get another Art of Darkness, so again, this one is going to be cleaving half of the arena this time around. It was the right side, so everybody needs to move towards the left. And we had some people stand on the same tile again, which is why we died. Then she's gonna do another random mechanic, either group shares or laser beams. This one is gonna be laser beams. And you'll see over here that I'm gonna be surviving this by just mitigating this with some cooldowns. But again, if you're not a tank, your chances of survival here are extremely low. She's going to follow this up by doing yet another one. So this one, Art of Darkness, this time around left side, so everybody move over to the right. After this one resolves, we have another normal Art of Darkness, where it's either going to be group shares or going to be spread around the boss. This time around it was spread around the boss again, so I'm just gonna home gang this one because we have a few people that are dead. Just to try and keep me alive, basically. At first we thought this was the Enrage, but it actually isn't. The Enrage is going to be coming after this one, which will be Deluge of Darkness. And that is pretty much going to be the whole fight. So once you get to that 50% point, you're pretty much done with progging the fight. Yes, there are a few different mechanics. Like for example the towers during the flower phase, you have the clones happening through the first phase, like when you're in the normal arena, and then you get a few extra Art of Darknesses that you need to deal with when it comes down to the third phase. But that's pretty much gonna do it for this fight. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below and I'll get back to you when I have the time, because of course, once this goes live, I am going to be raiding again, going into E10. We're almost done with that fight as well, so hopefully you can see the video for that tomorrow. But for now, that's gonna do it for me. I wanna thank you for watching, I wanna thank my Patreons for supporting me, and I'll see you in the next one.